Hello and welcome. This is the Chiro podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass. And today we're going to have a meaningful conversation with a pro Chiro coming to us out in Illinois, I believe, Dr. Tony Ebel. Dr. Tony, why don't you just get us started by sharing a little bit about where you were at in life when you decided to become a chiropractor? What was the inspiration? And what did you do to kind of live your life in a way that helped you become a chiropractor? Because a lot of us don't realize our backgrounds actually helped us once we start to wrap our head around what it means to be a chiropractor.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks for having me, dude. This is such a fun part of the story for me, like my very first spark and the day I decided to become a chiropractor. Because it goes all the way back to high school and it honestly has everything to do with fun meeting passions. So I had a class as a senior in high school called workplace readiness. So you kind of choose your industry and then you got to go shadow somebody and write a paper. And this will tell you why I have a specialty in ADHD these days for my patients, because I've had it forever as well. So I put this thing off to the very last day. I roll in that morning. My buddy Andy's like, because I chose healthcare because I love helping people and I love science, physiology, anatomy. And so I'm like, oh crap, I got to do this assignment. And my buddy's like, my uncle's a chiropractor. I think they're like doctor kind of. So I go shadow Dr. Rex is his name, Dr. Rex Jones. And the thing that stuck out that I would share with your audience is I couldn't believe you could help people and have fun at the same time. Because I had done PT, I'd had a bunch of injuries. I had done PT, I'd been in hospitals, and God bless people who can work in those environments that don't have a lot of fun and don't have a lot of joy. But I just spent the whole day with Rex, and he was so busy and he was loving life. His patients loved being there. His team, his wife was an amazing chiropractor too. The vibe. I'll pretend like I'm young. The vibe in the office was legit. So I went back home. I Yahooed it because I'm old. So this is before you could Google it. And I found that it was all about science and anatomy, and you get your doctorate in chiropractic. This is happening in small town Iowa. I'm in Illinois now, where my wife is. But so long story short, I chose chiropractic that day, sitting in the high school's dial-up internet lab when I read about it, and because I got on Palmer's website and I got to read about the philosophy too, and being a farm kid, so just having fun, helping people, using your hands, trusting how God made us, not trying to control things.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the perfect match for me, man.
Mm-hmm. Talk about being a farm kid. Let's just say we're speaking to other farm kids out there. How does being a farm kid maybe help you become a chiropractor or just leverage some of those skills and strengths that you have to develop within yourself?
Man, I think there's a couple of ways, and maybe this is just, it comes through me because of God's journey for me. But number one, literally done by hand, right? Which is kind of funny because I know it's happening at chiropractic. Most actual farmers just sit in a tractor while it goes on GPS and they scroll Instagram these days. But that's, with the machines these days. But you're using your hands, you're using hard work, but that's part of it. I would actually say the number one thing that a farmer community does is help one another. Like I just always was not only helping my dad, but we were helping others. And then it was, there was no sign up sheet. And then when you needed help, they were there to help, all the neighbors and the uncles. So I feel like this helper mentality. And then also the final thing I'd say, I love this question, is you can learn how to make things simple. Once you get into the world of academics and doctorates and marketing and techniques, what chiropractic has been subluxated massively by is our inability to simplify, to magnify our message. So what we've been able to do with pediatric chiropractic is, I can speak neurology with the best of them, but when I'm talking to parents, which is what I spend all my time doing, I'm not going doctorate level combo. I'm going fifth grade farmer English. This is what's up. This makes sense. And they love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just having been aware of your efforts, you talk about growing up in the farm community and how everybody helps one another. That's something I've noticed that you've been doing for at least 10 years. I'm sure it's been longer than that because you got out of school longer than that. And I'm sure you helped your fellow students, but you've created the Pediatric Experience, Well Aligned Products is a collaboration which seems like is within your family,
Yep.
and you are creating videos, and I want to say you have more content than almost anybody out there as far as trying to produce content that really just helps that next generation succeed or have a shorter learning curve, or just helps them in any way that you know that you can. And this is all available for free on YouTube, if you just search your name.
Yeah.
So talk about like the genesis of when you decided you were ready to start sharing this more from a leadership standpoint, and more like we're ready to start building infrastructure for pediatric chiropractic. Because I imagine when you first started, the ICPA did exist, Dr. Genome was rocking it, but there wasn't the type of infrastructure that currently exists. Can you kind of talk about where it was at when you first started the work you're doing, and then what it's come up to now?
Oh, dude, another great question, man. Yes, indeed. Yeah, when I was going through, so I kind of found chiropractic in that model, and it was a typical model. And then 2 weeks before I graduated, our oldest baby girl was born. So then everything became pediatrics and prenatal. So I had been studying a lot of like sports and wellness stuff. I kind of grew up in that era of chiropractic. Dr. James Chestnut was a huge mentor of mine, meant the world to me in my certainty. And so I was wellness certified. I was doing all this. And then I did make a severe, left turn into pediatrics and prenatal. So I got ICPA certified, and it really expanded my what I call technique toolkit. I finally learned a lot more about adjusting kids in a lot of different ways. But that was kind of where it left. That was kind of the beginning and the end of that road. All the ins and outs of how to communicate the message to your community beyond back pain, sports injuries, so that parents would actually bring their kids in. That I was kind of left to my own devices to sort out. Care planning, there was no care planning taught in there, to it. And so really what it became is just never shutting up. I like to joke, God just made me Tony the Talker. Now my baby girl, Tiny, is her nickname, is Tiny the Talker. We're like, she's just a reincarnation of me. And so I started to go out on workshops. We did radio ads back then because it was before Facebook. And we just tried every way possible to get the message out. And over time, that's how you learn. And it started to work. And so now I'm like, well, goodness, now God's given us YouTube, and God's given us Facebook, and God's given us these things, Zoom. Even when chiropractic schools were shut down, I went on twice a week and just invited any students in. I was like, I think we called it like Slang as a Startup and Student Hour, and just turned on Zoom. I was like, I'll teach you that. If they're going to shut down, we'll help out. And so I love the concept of move the free line, just put content out there that helps others. Because what I hope my content always does is splits two ways. Number one, find out what doesn't work. And it's you got to be careful, especially for me, the way I'm wired. You never want to say, oh, that way is bad or that way is wrong. I'm just always trying to provide contrast and say, if you want a subluxation based pediatric and family practice, these roads will lead you astray. And then the other side of the content is, here's how we get it done and it works. And I love to be super tactical and practical, and really break it down into steps so that it's not just exciting for a student or a chiropractor to learn, but it's actually tangible. Like, oh, step 1, step 2, step 3. It's a blast, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to touch on that last thing you just said right there. I think as a profession, we talk about the subluxations of the profession. We talk a good game, and we can even deliver it, some of us, in our practices, and change lives on a consistent daily basis, which is why I'm sure you were driven to go on the radio, to talk everywhere you could, because you were experiencing those results.
Right up.
But that strategic planning, I feel like, is missed for not only the average chiropractic student getting out into practice, but also as a profession. We're not planning how we're going to level up the baseline skill set of a pediatric chiropractor at a school. And that's like a question that I believe you asked, and then you just started figuring out, okay, what's the simplest way to introduce them to it? How do we get them to go deeper? How do we get them to experience it? And then how do we get them to become leaders and
Yeah.
learn through leadership on their own campuses, which is what you're up to now.
Yeah.
So can you talk about kind of the pathway that you have structured
Yeah.
to develop somebody into a pediatric chiropractor?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it truly is development, because I think what's happened for me is it's the same thing twice. What we figured out is, okay, what threw a child's development off? What caused them to go down the road of the perfect storm, which is the path to chronic illness and sickness, autism, asthma, everything in between. I always tell parents this. I'm like, the only reason we're obsessed with the negative road, figuring out the bad stuff, is because 180 degrees opposite of that is the good road. So once you have unequivocal clarity on what causes a kid to get sick, you also simultaneously found the answer on what matters most for them to be healthy. It's the same with building our practice and our skill set of confidence and leadership in pediatric chiropractic. If you know what would take you off course, what would subluxate that journey, you can adjust those early, right? It's like getting an infant under care instead of waiting until they're a 17-year-old, 6 meds. And like, I got my start in clinic. The only parents who gave me a chance for these perfect storm kids were 17, 18, 19-year-olds with epilepsy, autism, and parents were facing like legitimate last resort. So if those kids got better, oh man, when we start at 3 months or 3 hours, oh, okay. So for the students with Club PX, this is my jam. We literally took the word development and it's hiding in the corner over there. On my whiteboard, I whiteboarded out what would the optimal pediatric chiropractic development journey look like, right? And then we turned it into a curriculum for Club PX. Now, our Club PX meetings are on 7 campuses right now. Well, 7 cities. Some are on campus, some aren't, based upon how the school rolls or doesn't, right? And so we just set up and we say, okay, early on, here's what you need first. And I'll rip through those quick. Number one, most important, is to understand get certainty in the science and philosophy of chiropractic, specifically pediatrics, and what is really subluxating kiddos. Because even within our profession, we're getting caught up on what I call the middle layer, not the root cause. We're getting worried about the microbiome and tongue ties and primitive reflexes and, what baby wear they should use and what supplements they should take. And those are wonderful health promoting things that they're not going to get from the pediatrician. But it doesn't mean they need to get it from us, because that ain't really us. So we're talking subluxation, neurology. That's it. We awesomely put blinders on them when we're teaching science and philosophy so that they can go deep down the chiropractic path and not end up going wide down the wellness path, which is where I ended up, I kind of ended up with a natural pediatrician. I hate to say this, but it was like I was the natural family doctor instead of the pediatric chiropractor. So we go certainty of science, because the moment you have that, now your clinical application, the art, becomes a lot more confident, clear, and effective if you know exactly why you're doing it, right? And understand subluxation to that degree. So 50% plus of their training curriculum is around certainty, and then case management, care planning, and adjusting. So I kind of put clinical as a catch-all word for all that. And then we go heavy there. Once they have confidence and clarity and certainty brewing, then you teach them how to communicate and market. And I think a lot of people see and build a practice systems, then the rest comes, right? And I think a lot of people see, and you caught it, man. You even already said it today, brother, man. A lot of people see how much we market and how much we're obsessed with putting content out. And they will sometimes kind of throw that at us like, oh, well, when you're so busy clinically, when you get kids well, you don't need to market. No, when you see kids get well and you know that there's millions of them left unwell and subluxated and they don't even know you exist, it becomes your moral obligation to figure out Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and everything in between. Marketing is where miracles begin. And so then that's the thing that our club finishes, which is unique within pediatric chiropractic training. We turn them into clinical Jedis, don't get me wrong there. And then we turn them into communication Jedis as well, because you need both to save a kid's life.
Before we move on in this conversation, can you go a little bit deeper into the details of what types of sciences a
Yeah.
pediatric chiropractor needs to focus on, or what types of concepts related to the subluxation are out there that someone is not under or not aware of yet?
Yeah, totally, man. So I started, my mentors would be Dr. Chestnut, who's his book, The 14 Foundational Premises. I had a friend, it's one of those pivotal life moments, right? Fifth trimester, my buddy, Dr. Steve Nagel now hands me this book. I was a fumbling, bumbling. I think we have science, but nobody's taught it to me yet. And oh, by the way, I signed up for this because I love science, right? You're like halfway through school, you're like, can't bail now. And so that book taught me, I would call it the dyskinesia to disafferentation to dysautonomia model, right? Kind of 3D, 4D. Around the same time, Dr. Murphy came to campus, and I really learned about disafferentation. So the input model of subluxation, which is exactly what it is. It's not a pinched nerve. We were close, just no cigar. And so it's an incoming afferent problem. And then Dr. Kent and Dr. Gentempo wrote a paper long ago called the 4D model, where they added dyskinesis, which is abnormal energy output, which is how neurology works. Because if you alter input, you alter coordination within the central nervous system. So Dr. Stevenson always referred to subluxation as in coordination. So these are the same models, just using our terms these days versus theirs back then. And then so that's where I had kind of had it left off, the 4D model. I then, as I started to put the perfect storm and pediatric stuff out, and you learn that the first things that get altered for kids is their gut health, their immune health, and their motor. I added a 5th D called dysfunction. That's an easy one. You can take that in all directions with dysautonomia. And then somebody sent me a paper long ago, and I know I'm ripping through these guys, but you can, like you said earlier, you can find me and find it. Then we learned about a paper called developmental diaschisis, or schisis if you're Canadian. And what that is that damage or injury. So for us, it's birth trauma. If it sets up shop one place, say the upper cervical or the neurospinal system, brainstem, it will alter things at another place downstream. When you Google, so the word is diaschisis, Diaschisis. If you Google it and you read its Latin or Greek definition, it means shocked throughout. And then if you were to watch birth for millions of kids on this planet, that would be a shock throughout their central nervous system that subluxates it, gets it stuck, dyskinesia, alters its input, disafferentation, shifts it into sympathetic dominance, dysautonomia, and away we go. So I would say we call it the 10D model, but at least I went deep. Let me pull back simple. At least understand disafferentation to dysautonomia. So kind of the gas versus brake, our well-aligned posterior gas versus brake is designed to take dysautonomia to a 5th grade visual level, right? And teach chiropractic from that. So there's no spine on it, right? It's all neurology. And then, so dysautonomia, vagus nerve. And then when you turn all that forward, everyone, you want to understand that what we're dealing with here is called neuroplasticity. So if you read like Norman Doidge's book, The Brain That Heals Itself, he talks about diaschisis from different kinds of injuries, not birth trauma. He's not a pediatric guy. And so now you understand neuroplasticity. Subluxation takes neuroplasticity in a bad way because it keeps getting deeper in and worse if left in there during childhood development. Chiropractic takes neuroplasticity and 10x's its benefit because we're adding good in again and again and again. And that is literally the science behind why chiropractic kids live such kick-ass lives with robust immune systems, digestive systems, and resilience through the nth degree. Now, I'll finish with this. You take a chiropractic kid, live on a farm. It's morning time, man. I see my goats out there. I see that kid ain't getting sick, ever.
All right. So I was in the library the other day with my baby boy. He's 1.5 years now. And I'm in the little baby book section. There's not a single book on chiropractic. There's 50 on dentistry. There's 50 on doctors. There's no representation in the libraries. What's your response to that?
Yeah, so what we're moving in this section, dude, so cool. I just talked to someone last week about this who has a heart for design. We're kind of a little bit on a struggle bus to get designers right now. The job market's nuts everywhere, including there. So we're going from video. So what you mentioned earlier, we produce more video. I just bought a building to put it. This will be the last crummy lighting Zoom I ever do. We're a week short, brother, man. I bought an entire building to put a studio into it so that we can create content for chiropractors, but really that's our PXHQ studio to reach more parents. We're going video to written word. Now I've hired an entire SEO article writing team out of Utah that are the best in the world in the natural space. So we know how to just do a little dancing with Google, right? Since they don't like to necessarily let our content out. And then we want to go to visual and to books. So because of the world we're in right now with video being king and queen and, books haven't gone anywhere, we're working, I don't know if you would call that kind of backwards or whatever it is, but we're going to end up with a strategic goal in 3 years. I'm going to write the Perfect Storm book for parents, which is really, I'm going to have a writer help me through all my video content. They're going to form it up and then I'll, curate it and clean it up. And then what we want to do is have the 3 writers on our team that are doing design and article writing. They're non-chiropractors. They're moms who have seen transformational miracles with that. And I do feel like one of them, her passion in the future will be to write some children's books and put a whole, but they will not have you seen it? They will not have the spine everywhere. Okay. Because that doesn't land. The spine has subluxated our message as well, because we're all visual learners. When a parent sees a picture of a spine, and then you have chiropractic's brand, what it is, they instantly think chiropractic is for adults with back pain, has nothing to do with my baby, and they move on. There's no more investigation or intrigue. So all of our books are all going to be around neurology, not necessarily not at all really around the spine.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I like your thinking. And unfortunately, I feel like 2% get 98% done for the profession, and we're not really leveraging our resources. My goal, or one of my intentions, is to really open the eyes of every incoming chiropractic student so that if they arrive on day 1 of chiropractic school knowing they want to become a pediatric chiropractor, they've already been exposed to you. They've already studied maybe what your early learners study, and they're already primed to really make a difference in school. Whatever their talents are. I don't know if you know this, but now you can go to chiropractic school with just a bachelor's degree. So we're attracting people from all walks of life, even greater broader context now than there used to be. And that presents a big problem. But like you said, in every problem, you turn 180 degrees, and that's the solution. So I'm really excited to bring you to them in undergrad, in high school, in middle school, in elementary school. And then you got these kids that it's their primary choice to go to chiropractic school, because I'm sure you've heard this and been told this, and maybe even this was true for some of your closest friends, is that chiropractic was a fallback option. It wasn't the primary choice. And if we're keeping it real, there's no passion in that fallback choice mindset. When you first get there, you have to bring them to that. And a lot of people never get there because they're not exposed to the resources that are connected to our message, but also connected to the people that we want to get our message to. So I applaud your efforts. And I also am just like, why are there not more schools and political organizations and education companies created these supplemental opportunities, right? Like, can we have a science fair at a chiropractic school where the job of the student is just to demonstrate their passion on a triboard, or in, one of these video editor softwares, they put together a really cool video? Or can we acknowledge that everybody that adjusts kids has a different tonal approach than you would imagine a normal chiropractic adjustment has for an adult? So can we demonstrate that from a student perspective of how they're starting to see kids differently, how they're starting to work with people from this like broader tonal range of like I know how to work with kids and adults, and that becoming like a standard, a norm, not just like do you know how to adjust when you graduate school, but do you know how to adjust adults, kids,
Yeah.
teenagers and babies. There's just so many questions because, right, it always starts with the question asking that haven't been asked for like decades and decades and decades. And so I have like hundreds of questions. I've been working on this project for about 12 years now. So when I first got to chiropractic school, I went to a school for location. I transferred to Life West. I saw how many resources my previous fellow students were not going to ever find out about, and it upset me. So I worked on a project where I won't get into the details on that, but it was just all about connecting students to resources they didn't have access to. And that's where we're at today still, but I'm just at a different level now, having been in practice for like the last 9 years. And I was at, I believe, Epic Vision, it was called, when we had it down in San Diego. I don't think you had it yet since the last time when I was there.
Nope.
And, I'm seeing the same familiar faces that I see every single time. And I just think to myself, if I was in high school, college athlete, massage therapist, personal trainer at the Y, never considering chiropractic, volunteering in a high school and an optometry school, I would have had chiropractic like
Yeah.
in the front of my mind, not as this 11th hour option that came about because I randomly, out of
Yeah.
curiosity, stumbled into a chiropractic office that was doing what you got to see. It was like both of our journeys were kind of, okay, let's go check this out. And then eyes open and
Yeah.
we're like, wow. And I got to go to that scientific and philosophical validation of chiropractic and the wellness paradigm with James Chestnut
Yeah.
before chiropractic school started, And I still chose to go to the wrong school for location purposes because if we're being completely honest, and then I'll get off my rant here, the admissions teams have an agenda. They sell you on their campus, on their culture, on whatever is coolest about them. And as a student, you're just buying that one experience. It's an isolated experience. And my big beef is that not only is the profession's message being led by admissions teams, but there's no follow-up, there's no depth, there's no structure, there's no runway. So I've created like a 10-stage become a chiropractor program, and I'm excited to roll it out, and I'm excited to have you be in all the stages, but it's
Dude,
meant to be that basically there's 5 stages that you go through before you get to the admissions department.
come on. That is that I love that rant, man. That rant can continue because so I don't know if we mentioned this on coming in or not. We have, because I had such a pivotal experience as a shadowing, person. And then also because my internship, then another mentor of mine, Dr. Mike Cody, changed. I had the greatest internship ever. So these developmental stages meant the world for me. And I was also at Palmer. I had Dr. Burns and some amazing people before. Like, it was great back then. You still had to kind of work to find it compared to probably what it used to be many, many, many years ago. But anyway, I had the greatest journey as a student all the way through. So I've been obsessed. We just had our 82nd patient tell us they're going on to Chiro. We have, I need to put this on a Google sheet. I think we have over 30 that have already graduated. And then there's somewhere in the 40 to 50 range that are either in undergrad or they're in chiropractic school right now. I mean, 2 of my doctors on my team right now started as patients, right? Because the longevity, because the beard's getting grayer because I'm getting at it longer. I love this because I think there's such a huge, it is literally like adjusting a child. I'll use the same analogy. How you begin has a whole lot to do with how you come out, right? That preconception stage, the prenatal stage, the delivery stage, and doing these things. So, dude, I will tell you this right now, live on this sucker. Anything and everything the Pediatric Experience and all of our clubs can do, because I'd love to. You'll love this story. Like, this is a great example, and let's take this and make thousands of them. We have these perfect storm intensive cases. They come from out of state, chronically sick kids, TBI injuries, all these sort of things. And they do 2 weeks of care. They get adjusted twice a day for 2 weeks. And then we send them home and we co-care with one of the docs we trained, right, through the PX Docs network. Well, Kenna is this girl's name. She'd been sick her whole life. I'll tell it abbreviated version, gets ridiculous care that we all know neurotonal chiropractic can for these kids. chooses during her 2 weeks, like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to become a chiropractor. We give her, we give her all the different options of kind of our top 3 to 5 schools. And we're like, hey, do not just check out one. Do not just choose by location for sure. She's an Indiana girl, so Palmer would be close. Anyways, when she goes down to Life, which is where our really crushing club is right now, our 3 to 4 club leaders, these just unbelievable humans God has sent us to take that thing to another level down in Marietta. They take her to dinner and they spend the day with her as people before she does the admissions in the school and everything else. And they're sending us all these photos on the group chat and having this experience, like that kind of community. This kid's in high school, right? And chiropractic students all took care of this kid all the way along the journey. So, dude, as you build that out, anything and everything we can do to help. We've got troops, in a big way. We have 800 members. We'll be over 1,000 by the end of the year with the Pediatric Experience. And half of them are students and startups. And the other half know this. You're a farmer, pediatric chiropractor. Be prepared to help. Be prepared to go to the school, to go to your students that are in junior high, that are in high school. I want to start having these career nights in our PX offices and really leading in this thing too. So now I'm rambling and ranting because I loved yours so much. Yeah, dude. Anything?
It goes on and on. If you want me to continue the rant, I'll keep sharing visions. Basically, we have no chiropractors present on college campuses or high school campuses for the right reasons.
Yeah, true.
And basically, if you get a student that has that deep awareness that you're talking about, that you're able to bring people through in your club, that if we bring them through some of this in a pre-chiro club, they're going to their administrators, their teachers, the college president. They're going to the guidance counselors and they're saying, here, I made this for you. I created this for you. This was one of the projects for my pre-chiro club, was to create, like, what is a pediatric chiropractor do, and give this to the guidance counselor so that when a pre-med student comes in and they say, I want to go and become a pediatrician one day, they say, well, that's awesome. And you could also become a pediatric chiropractor. This is another option. So we're creating materials for guidance counselors. We're creating materials for pre-chiro clubs. And then you start to ask the question is, you've got this network of 800 members. You've got docs around the country. Can they be close enough to a college campus so that once that established connection is made, these students don't have to work to go to these career nights, to go out of their way to go mentor other students. It's brought to them. And they can actually work and be paid, and we could create jobs for chiropractic students. We could create jobs for pre-chiro students to really just step up, show up, share materials, support people, not as chiropractors, because they're not there yet, but they're practicing being chiropractors. They're showing up in an unfamiliar environment that has no idea what they do, and they're marketing themselves with a clear message to their college campus. And we can start to publish research that shows if you have a pre-chiro club on your campus, it's improving the lives of everybody. It's making impacts on the lifestyle choices. And you and I can agree, you got the freshman 15. What if there was the pre-chiro 15? We started to really, build this awareness that, hey, if you're a pre-PT student, you might be like partying all night and eating like shit and not having strategies on how to recuperate and how to nourish yourself and how to move. You might just be in the gym lifting weights and want to be a strength and conditioning coach, but not necessarily taking care of yourself, like on a deeper level, like you said.
Dude, we'll say that it's your HRV that gains 15 points your freshman year. And holy cow, what a need. Expanding upon this, just going into my brain with your brain, brother, man. Number one, being in a pediatric family practice as we are, we're seeing the pain, we're seeing the anxiety, we're seeing the depression that high schoolers have. So they're going to carry that into these, dark and gloomy. Most campuses are, they feed that victim mentality today in academic, so they're not going to get neurologically unstuck unless there's a club of hope dealers in there, right? With that neurology, because that's crazy. The one part it's impossible for me to tell my whole journey because God put so many amazing mentors. When I was at Iowa State as a sophomore and I had signed up for chiropractic, but other than that one day experience with Dr. Jones, I knew nothing and I needed a job. God, I'm going to age myself again. I wrote letters. I called Palmer, asked for the 14 docs who I remember it was 14 people that practiced around Ames, Iowa. And I wrote letters. And only one of them called me and said, come in. And Dr. Elbert, Dr. Rick Elbert, an amazing Gonsa doctor, gave me a job. I was a front desk CA. I then was a tech CA. I learned how to run insight scans. I learned how to do x-rays. And that job got me healthy. Literally, I was the Jimmy Johns and Bush Light bro, right? And because I grew up, no clue about wellness. So working there got me adjusted and got me healthy, and lots of ands here in the best of way, and got me trained. When I got to chiropractic school, I knew what subluxation-based kick-ass chiropractic was, and I wasn't interested in anything else because I had seen it on the job with Dr. Elbert, and he mentored me as an undergrad. And it made all the difference in the world. So we could be that place where these teens and that age group, this is our passion right now. We'll always be obsessed with babies and young kids. We're obsessed with all of them. But the teenagers, we're already really in a worse, terrible place. Like, you're not cool unless you've gone to the behavioral hospital and you're on 2 meds these days. It's such BS how pharmaceuticals have literally marketed right to kids and gotten away with it. Not anymore, though. So let's turn this tide going forward with your plan, our plan together. This is when challenge meets opportunity, and we say, let's go and serve more, and let's go earlier and serve more, right? That would be pediatric chiropractic again. You can make a bigger impact the earlier you get your hands on that kid. Well, we can make a bigger impact the earlier we get your plans on that kid, right? That is phenomenal, man. Right in the curriculum and going after it. There was a little bit of this at Iowa State. I sparked a little bit. There was a guy behind me, and then one about my docs, Dr. Steph Masick, who you've got interviewing. I'll connect you with our whole crew for this, dude. You'll love them all. We saw that at Iowa State. There was no pre-Chiro, and then I think they tried to put it in. I can't remember what school. So we're like, no, you need to move this. This is a movement science. You need to move it to the kinesiology department, and then then it kind of got hung up a little bit too much like PT athletic trainer. So we're like, okay, we're happy to be here, but we need our own space. You know what I mean? So it was kind of this battle with Iowa State, but at least it was happening. At least there were conversations and a club forming and doing these things. So
some of the things I just want to touch on is it has to come from the inside out. It can't come from this outside chiropractic company that's trying to establish a relationship with a college. It has to come from the students who are studying with this chiropractic company and saying, oh my gosh, my life as a student here, my experience as a student at Iowa State is so much better because I have clarity of what I'm doing in the future, and I have resources that have been put here because my Iowa State guidance counselor told me they were available for me. So it increases the student satisfaction at their college to have had these resources. But like, let's just keep deconstructing the situation. Right now, pre-med has over 850,000 hashtag pieces of content out there. Pre-Chiro has 200 to 850,000. So if there's one thing you could do with your movement, it's start adding the hashtag pre-Chiro. The second thing is that they have an MCAT and a GRE for PT, and we have the opportunity to not focus on what they know, but focus on what they've experienced, focus on what they've learned through experience. And if we can identify how many questions are on that MCAT and then kind of reverse engineer an entire program that has them go through that many experiences, we can start to really brand chiropractic as being more about the experience than the education, or more about the types of things that you got to learn about, as opposed to, the micronutia of, that continues in chiropractic school. Let's just be honest. But, and this is the big issue, is like, once we level up the incoming student, finally, our profession's fragmented. What if every incoming student, no matter what school they went to, had these shared experiences, had this shared knowledge that you've taught them, no matter what school they went to? Now they're going to arrive and be like, okay, what's next? What's the next step of this? So it's like kind of our responsibility to keep going, and then it extends your runway. So it's like, my question to you is like, what's possible with your program if, say, like, I guess this is just asking, at the end of your program, usually people are just going out there to practice and crush it,
Yeah.
or they're starting a pediatric experience club on their campus. But like, what's possible if this club has existed for years and there's all this infrastructure involved, and you've got a student that's gone through the curriculum and they still have a year and a half left? Like, what can we do?
They're ready. It already exists. There's a lot of gaps that this is going to fill. Number one, like PX chiropractors, and this is not hyperbole. This is real life for us right now. The biggest challenge we have on our docket for my team is to help our docs find associates. What we're doing in practice. So there is a massive, the workplace, they call it the Great Resignation. I've stolen that term. That's what parents are doing to pediatricians and the medical system. They were already leaving by the droves before they made up all this crap. Now they push so hard. And I know I always say it this way, look at the scoreboard and, okay, they're smoking us. But you ever watch a game with your favorite team? So the Cyclones, they do this. It's a perfect example. Let's stay in my Iowa State hood. They'll be up in the third quarter or whatever, but you're just watching the game and you're like, they're letting them stick it. Momentum is on our side. That like, hey, the scoreboard reads one way now, but if you're actually watching the game day to day, like you and I in practice and all of our peeps, you're seeing us on fire. Okay. You're seeing the market sprint towards us. Now we're going to meet the market's needs with the content that we're producing that we talked about earlier, right? So the studio is for that. I'm even going to bring in we're going to bring in our top doctors. So it's not just the Dr. Tony show. We're going to bring in all of our top doctors to the studio to produce content. That's why it's called Pediatric Experience Docs, not Dr. Tony, right? I don't want to create a singular brand that fragments chiropractic again. We're going to bring groups. Anyways, now these practices are on fire, dude. Our crew cannot find associates fast enough. School doesn't literally on a calculator doesn't have enough of them. Even if we were to go there and do what we're doing, which is kind of take over these schools, and Club PX, I think, is like the biggest club now at 2 to 3 of the schools, and we're only 2 years old. That's still not enough, dude. Literally, I'm running the math in my head, how fast our clinics are growing. I'm going to hire 2 more doctors this summer. And so I've got a pipeline. And here's why. Gosh, this brings it all together. This is such a fun chat. We never struggle to get associates on our team. And it's not because we're loud on Facebook or have a certain volume of practice. I go there and help them. They know me. They always will. My crew, Matt goes there, Steph goes there, Morgan goes there. We go help them so they can't wait to come help us. So my preaching message to my top docs and our busy docs these days are, don't tell me your stats and don't show me your Indeed.com job wanted ad. I don't care. They don't know you from Adam. Go there, whichever campus you're closest to, or get on a freaking plane, go there and help them, and then they'll come be you. But now, let's say we do that even. There's not enough. And so what we need to do, and we will do, is partner with you. We will bring our crew to the university. Jason Day can go to whatever school in Raleigh that's going to set one up. Scott can go in Virginia. The Hafers can go out in Boise. We've got a crew. And here's what my wife and I talk about all the time. We truly have instilled the farmer mentality into this group. We're not about how much money can you make and how many vacations can you take. We're not hiding from either of those. Okay. Have a great life. That comes with this model of practice. But this is a servant-based leadership movement. And that most importantly includes going to serve students, not going into the profession and you starting your own coaching company and you starting your own business. Grow your practice by getting more students that you serve, you help, you inspire, and you teach. You can't just go there and light them on fire. You got to actually teach them how to do something. Mm-hmm. Giving them a job as a CA for their 4 years would be freaking great. Then they go into Club PX. And yeah, you nailed it. We actually have most of our clubs, the on-fire students that start, they're within the first year of chiropractic school, Ben. So by the time they're in their third year, you nailed it. They've kind of learned our Club PX curriculum, and they could go upstream and really help go to these campuses and other places, dude, and give back. And I can think of 40 names of people that would do this. Mm-hmm. Let's just start planting it.
Mm-hmm. Nah, it's all really exciting to see somebody like you with the vision, but also with the mission, the strategy. The strategy, I feel like, is the main piece.
Woo.
But basically, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I feel like when most students start to serve these movements that they join, and then they serve them and they serve them. For me, I was promoting a number of seminars as a student, and I was always trying to attract more people because I knew the value that that seminar would have in their life, or that it had in my life, and I wanted to serve that. I did feel a little salty, and I don't
Yeah.
think I was alone, that these companies were getting millions of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, from the students, from the chiropractors, and we didn't know where that money was going. We didn't know that it was going back into the movement. There was no transparency,
Oh,
right? My last name is Glass. We
yeah.
need transparency. I remember when I first started this project, I was like, I'm going to get um, $3.33 for 3 months donated by, I want to say it was like 100 people. And this was going to be, $30,000. And with that $30,000, we were going to give 5 options of how the community wanted that money to be spent, whether it was community outreach or whether it was creating like kids' books, whatever it was, there needed to be more of a collaborative nature. There needed to be recognition of who did contribute a little bit more so than there was, but also like we need to give back and like pay these students. I'm just going to keep it real. I believe that there will be more motivated students to join the movement if they're getting paid, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but like little stipends that, or maybe they're allowed to go to a seminar for free, and that's helpful as well. But like go to the seminar for free and you get $150.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about a student on fire with your message, who's ready to go out and use that $150 to buy gas, to bring food to a college campus or high school campus,
Yeah, man.
connect them into your pre-Chiro PX experience. Because my whole goal is really to get people that have programs already to share them with the pre-Chiro community. And that's going to require a lot of people to rethink how they necessarily like bring a pre-Chiro student is not how they want to bring a Chiro student. And most people are just concerned about chiropractors because they have the money. But like a
Yeah.
pre-Chiro student program that,
Yeah.
is obviously more abbreviated, but it gives them, so like just to really quickly let you know what the structure of my program is. You got the foundations, the basics of chiropractic, philosophy, science, art. Then you've got the inner state, which is innate, broken up into your inner scientist, your inner thinker, your inner artist, your inner teacher, and your inner entrepreneur. And that's what I believe like the framework for chiropractic education should be, is just lead from the front of like, you're going to be a scientist, a thinker, an artist, a teacher, entrepreneur. Let's build these skills, or at least in the pre-Chiro, I'm just exposing them to what skills they could build. And then the third one is the apprentice. So if there were structured observation opportunities where they could go to a clinic with worksheets of like, okay, on this day, I'm going to watch patient education. On this day, I'm going to watch systems. On this day, I'm going to watch marketing, or on this day I'm going to watch, financial, whatever it is, or adjusting.
They're in a certain.
And then the fourth one is learning through leadership, where they start their own pre-Chiro club, or they go on a service trip, or they go and they help an office grow. But it's something that gets them making money, and gets them showing up to do something, so they have a bank account, they're managing money, they're starting to understand like that exchange, how to sell a message, communicate value. And then the fifth one is independent study. You've been through all this. Do something like they give pre-physical therapy students the opportunity to spend a semester and just study whatever they want to study. So I feel like that would be really cool, like a capstone independent study project of like make a video or do some sort of tri-board or something in the name of like
Yeah.
pediatric chiropractic or functional, you
Yeah.
know,
Get some experience.
whatever. And then the last one is the admissions process of like, how do you get all the things together, and how do you choose the school that's going to align with your vision for yourself. And then module 7, 8, 9 is like the Chiro student navigator. Okay, figure out how to orient to your environment at your school. What are your resources? Like, can you go to take care of yourself? Where can you go to learn more about these different things? What's available? And we have to create, I mean, these are all things that need to be built, right? I'm just trying to create a skeleton and then have students help me, have professionals help me fill in all of these gaps, which is essentially what we're having this conversation. I mean, you kind of nailed it in the first 15 minutes, which is why I'm going on these little mini rants and having these nonlinear conversations with you. But if we can continue that momentum through the program, 7, 8, 9, like 8 is student clinic, and then 9 is like transitioning into the real world. And then 10, 11, 12 could be like, you know, how to really change your community, how to really impact the profession, how to leave a legacy, all these different things that you're doing. If we can make that the framework for what it looks like to become a chiropractor, now you're talking about somebody who felt supported all the way through the education process. They had people there. They can never make excuses that I went to school for the wrong reasons and nobody was there to help me find my passion. Like, it's in your face.
So you're launching the community for them earlier, way earlier, because again, a lot of times people either never find one or they find it really late, and it's a really limited community. No matter how great that community might be, it may be it's probably, chiropractic has a lot of super great communities that are super limited, right? And not really threaded together. Dude, what's so cool about this? I'll just come back to, again, our opportunity to serve you in this mission is literally boots on the ground, because we've created this servant leadership amongst our practicing chiropractors. And now we've created this servant leadership mentality amongst our club leaders. They're hooked on it, man. They're addicted to it because giving and seeing people have this incredible impact is a lot more addicting than making a lot of money, you know, for the people we want in this tribe anyways, right? And so they're there, man. What we need to do is we'll follow up on email on this. We meet with our club leaders on a regular basis. And a lot of the meetings are literally just idea casting. I just give them free space. We'll get in there. We'll let them know, hey, this is what we want to bring to you. What do you see with that? Take that idea and run with it. Do you want to serve in this capacity? Who else are we missing? These are phenomenal skeleton ideas, dude, that I have not heard about, have not thought about before. But now that we have such strength in the Club PX chiropractic world, and that's crazy because I literally have 30, 40 patients right now who, now that I'm hearing you, they're loosely still connected to our practice because they come back on spring break or summer, but they're at University of Mississippi or Iowa State. They're on their own right now, man. We gotta get the net around them and help out. We've got the people. So yeah, let's get
what
you
if
on.
your club leaders were able to tell new members, hey, just so you know, this is the runway, right? You're going to go through the program, but at the end, when you get to where I'm at, my responsibility is now to look after the high school and college students before they get to chiropractic school. And I've proven to the leaders in your organization that I'm ready to communicate. So I'm actually going to speak to the kinesiology students, or I'm actually going to be on a webinar with the pre-med, pre-health science community. So like, and that's the other thing, is that's the magic of, like, if you start developing a presence on a college campus or a high school campus, now you've got the nurses finding out about chiropractic in our kind of way. You've got the students who are going to become medical doctors finding out about it.
Even if they stay on that course, they're at least exposed to this kind of dude. Let's go fishing, man. Hey, this is, yeah, bro. All this. And not just me. I know it's me and you chatting today, but when you get to meet the whole team of everybody, chiropractors, students, even our CAs, you know, we can come in. We have a CA army who can go in and share the voice of, like, this is the miracles inside of a practice, and can help bring this to light. So yeah, dude, I got to run and get the kids off to school here this morning, but you send the email. We'll get you will be our main invite, you know, kind of guest person on our next Club PX leadership meeting. We're actually having a huge get together this summer. I'm going to get you those dates. Maybe you could even come in. We're having it here on the farm. It's going to bring 50 to 100 students together and pour into them, and then also call into them and say, you have a responsibility in the future. Let's form that up and do it. So let's follow up ASAP, brother.